Brought to you by No Name Nerd, the best place to get customized and stylish gamer jerseys, so you too can look this Mantastic every day. Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to talk about the January 2020 10 Magic Stone Super Seasonal Godfest that has just gone live in North America. So this is one of the more highly anticipated or exciting events because it puts a nice spin or twist on regular Super Godfests. So generally speaking, Super Godfests have approximately a 1 in 3 chance of rolling any Godfest exclusive. And this has kind of become the norm or baseline for what we do expect from Godfest. As a result, the bygone days of 5 Magic Stone Godfest are kind of gone. The rolling rates are so much lower. I don't really know if they even exist anymore, to be honest, because they're just so insignificant. But either way, the reason why a seasonal Super Godfest is exciting is because some of that Godfest exclusive pool is taken out and then replaced with high rarity seasonal cards. And this is important because you still have that 1 in 3 chance of acquiring something of value, but the thing is, those seasonal cards are quite difficult to acquire otherwise because they are featured in what is essentially lackluster events. They have a very low chance of actually rolling something of value, whereas in a seasonal Super Godfest, you have a 1 in 3 chance, which is much higher. Of course, the 10 Magic Stone cost is higher compared to their regular seasonal events, but again, the collateral benefits of at least Pantheon cards, which are still kind of lackluster, but possibly more valuable than bottom rarity seasonal cards, especially in massive duplicates because they have a small rolling pool, tends to be a bit stronger. So this article is going to take a closer look at this seasonal Super Godfest to give you a better idea as to whether or not this is a good event for you to actually spend your Magic Stones. So as alluded to beforehand, Godfests of old used to only cost 5 Magic Stones, and there were essentially no collab or seasonal cards available, and basically all the good stuff were either farmable or rolled from the Raric machine, and it's just one Raric machine. There's only one machine, and that is important because it's going to make sense when I talk a bit further. But eventually Gung Ho did release their first Super Godfest, which doubled the Magic Stone cost to 10, but dramatically increased the rolling rates. Now, my memory can be a little bad. I'm not 100% sure when the disclosed rolling rates were released, but I feel like it came out at a later time. Those older Godfests had pretty poor rolling rates, but again, it wasn't as bad when you think about it because at least all of the cards you wanted were in a single egg machine. Now, the first Super Godfest was obviously a success. We had much stronger rolling rates, and people were like, hey, I could spend double the stones, but I have a much higher chance of getting something of value. We don't know what that exact increased chance was, but it was a noticeable increase, and it helped justify the cost, and it probably made Gung Ho motivated to make Super Godfest a regular thing. And this is important because we wanted to acquire those Godfest exclusives because at least initially when Pad first came out, Godfest exclusives were strong, but Pantheon cards and farmable cards still really dominated the majority of team compositions. But over time, Godfest exclusives became stronger and stronger. We kicked out the 5 stars to make room for the 7 stars, and that just basically created a new wave of power creep. And at the same time of the Godfest exclusives becoming stronger compared to Pantheon cards, we also had a shift towards more seasonal and collab events. And it is my belief that seasonal and collab events became significantly more powerful because they are more profitable. And that is because players have to roll in a separate egg machine to acquire those characters. And you can make the odds not that great, but if there's no other way to possibly roll these cards, it obviously makes it so people will have to do so. Of course, with the Monster Exchange system, it lessened the urgency, so to speak, to roll in those seasonal events. But again, they are now starting to become the stronger stuff because separate egg machines mean players have to roll across different places. There are just not enough Magic Stones to go around. And basically at this point in time, the vast majority of top tier teams are comprised of top rarity seasonal and top rarity collab cards or 7-star Godfest exclusives. It's becoming a bit harder, so to speak, to build high-level teams of Pantheon cards because they are just being left behind. So now we fast forward to today, and we're basically in that meta I just described. We want to have those high-rarity seasonal collabs and 7-star Godfest exclusives. The vast majority of teams I've made for Ultra Arena 3 are basically comprised of those cards, and it can be a little frustrating, but that's just the way the game actually works. So the main reason why the seasonal Super Godfest is appealing is because we can now roll those high rarity seasonal cards without actually having to gamble in their respective egg machines, which are much worse by comparison. So this upcoming seasonal Super Godfest features the top rarity cards from both the beach and the wedding events. And if either of those events are appealing to you or you like those cards, it is worth rolling in. Now, the main point I want to get across is that Super Godfest tend to be used to amass trade fodder to trade in other events. But because you can roll those top rarity beach and wedding cards, they still can be used for trade fodder because those are often used across various events. But you're able to actually directly roll potentially a chase card. Like for instance, say you want to beach Varroa, which is a very strong card. You could potentially roll her directly. You don't actually have to roll in the beach event. You might get beach Fujin, you might get beach Eshimali, beach Barbara and Julie. These are all reasonably useful cards, or very useful cards, so to speak. And for myself, this is how I actually acquired basically all of my beach cards and my Halloween cards and some of my New Year cards in previous Super Seasonal Godfest. Like I've gotten Halloween Cotton, beach Fujin, beach Eshimali, I think a Barbara Julie as well. Like I've gotten quite a few cards from Seasonal Super Godfest, and that is important because I wouldn't have necessarily traded for those cards, but I would like to have them. So if you are in the market to try and acquire trade fodder, a Seasonal Super Godfest is great because you can still get the trade fodder, but you may end up rolling a chase card you wanted anyways, or a card that you want to have, but you would never trade for. And that's the important distinction I want to make and why Seasonal Super Godfest are of value. Furthermore, unlike when I rolled in the past, we now have the 9-star cards. We have the Beach Varroa, we have the Bridezilla, which are expensive cards to trade for, but you can potentially roll them directly while avoiding their terrible amounts of fodder. I'm repeating some things because I want to stress that we are avoiding the junk and filler cards in the regular seasonal egg machines. So this sounds all fine and dandy, but where else could we possibly spend our magic stones? So due to the fact that we're about 1.5 to 2 months behind the JP server, we kind of can see into the future and kind of predict or plan our magic stone usage out moving forward. And that is important because we can budget much better. So looking into the future for JP content, or at least content that was announced in North America, we know that Yu-Gi-Oh! Collab is coming out in North America. We don't have a confirmed date, we just have that it is confirmed to be released. And it is home to arguably the best leader in the game. It's a transformational leader. A lot of his key and powerful subs can actually be rolled in the event itself, or you could possibly find other workarounds. You might do co-op DC. The point of the matter is it has an incredibly strong leader and a lot of nostalgia and possibly fan service to players who love that franchise. In addition to that, we will also be having new 7-star Godfest exclusives, which will be released in a future seasonal Godfest, which are strong, and one of them amusingly pairs well with Yu-Gi-Oh's top leader. Something else to think about. Furthermore, Sword Art Online has been re-released in Japan, which means there's a strong likelihood we will get a rerun of that collab because we have got it in the past for North America, and generally speaking we tend to get the same collabs if we had them before when they do rerun. Again, nothing is set in stone, but the Godfest exclusives and Yu-Gi-Oh! And collab are basically 100% to come, so those are kind of the next big things, so to speak, on the distance horizon. So you can kind of plan and budget your magic stones because, at least in my opinion, the best way to catch up with power creep is to amass a large number of magic stones and then roll heavily in those key events to kind of just ensure you get all the important cards to kind of catch yourself back up, so to speak. That's kind of like a technique I do in other gacha games. I just wait patiently for months potentially and then roll hard in one event that I really love. And I end up getting a lot of the stuff I actually want, and then I'm happy again. So for myself, do I actually plan to roll in this event? So I may do some rolls. Like I actually have very few amounts of trade fodder. I've never actually done a monster exchange for a top rarity like 10 magic stone event. So I don't have 5 7-star Godfest exclusives lying around, especially in duplicates. I've rolled very few, so I might want to roll a bit to get some. And getting those beach or New Year's cards are nice. Like I don't have, wedding, not New Year's, but like for the wedding event, I've never rolled that event. I have none of the top rarity cards. So if I do roll into one of them, I'll probably be kind of happy. It's like, I would never have traded for you. Maybe you'll have some use. They might get buffed. They should be buffed on a regular basis. It's just kind of a win-win situation. But at the same time, I am not super excited because I do have, like I mentioned before, a lot of those beach cards. So the beach cards, again, it'd be just trade fodder, won't be as exciting, so to speak. I haven't decided. Maybe when I stream later on this evening, I'll make a decision. But either way, it's still quite a solid event overall. So In conclusion, the seasonal Super Godfests tend to be stronger overall because you can directly roll the chase cards you are trying to actually build up fodder to acquire, and that is quite meaningful. Furthermore, you might even just roll cards that you would never trade for but you would like to have, and again, that is just a nice feeling. And in the end, even if you don't like the card you rolled, you could potentially at least monster exchange it away because, again, the high rarity seasonal cards are often used as trade fodder across many different events, so you're not necessarily losing out. So let me know what you think about this event in the comments below and whether or not you actually plan on utilizing magic stones for here. And if you do end up rolling, tell me how well you did. Regardless, hopefully all the Mantastic day. I wish you all the best of luck in your own pad adventures and happy puzzling.